Hello, I'm Kelsey, a misfit with a passion for crafting and creating. Hey there friends, welcome back to my little crafty corner of the internet. I recently found this little decor stand at Target, and the moment I saw it, I knew it would be the perfect size for a Barbie dining table. So naturally, I figured I'd build some chairs to go with it. But then I was hit with an even better idea. Why stop at chairs when I could build a whole breakfast nook around it? Walls, windows, a wraparound bench, the whole thing. So that's exactly what I'm doing in today's video. For the design, I'm keeping it pretty simple. It'll be a U-shaped room. The back two corners are small angled walls instead of sharp 90-degree corners. The bench will follow the same shape as the walls, wrapping all the way around. Each wall section will get its own window right above the bench, even the little angled ones. To get started, I decided to tackle the bench first. I cut out the shape with paper first, so I could compare it next to the dining table and a Barbie doll to make sure the proportions felt right. Once I was happy with the size and shape, it was time to start building. For this project, I decided to mostly work with cardboard, because it's easy to cut, easy to work with, and of course, basically free if you got a stack of boxes lying around. Once I had the basic shell of the bench built, I needed to give it some structure. To do that, I cut strips of cardboard the same height as the bench and rolled them up into these tight little logs. I glued those logs inside the bench. Then laid the top layer down over them and taped it all closed, essentially trapping the logs inside and creating a really solid, sturdy base. Now, it still very much looks like cardboard at this point, so that needed to be dealt with next. I found this nice gray fabric tablecloth at a thrift store, and I just knew it would be perfect for covering the bench. The tablecloth already had a nice finished hem on it, so I wanted to take advantage of that. I cut a strip of fabric with the hem running along the bottom and glued it all the way around the sides of the bench base. The frayed ends got folded over onto the top and glued down. Those ends don't matter too much because those were going to be hidden under the cushions anyway. Speaking of cushions, that was my next task. I cut a piece of cardboard in the same U shape as the bench base, leaving a little extra space along the outer edge for where the backrest would eventually sit. Then I cut out a generous piece of fabric to cover it. I started by only gluing down the inner edges first, so I could stuff cotton fill in as I worked my way around gluing down the outer edges. I'm not going to lie, but the fraying was a bit of a battle with this particular fabric. But once it was all done, I had this funny little U-shaped cushion. A tiny bit misshapen from the wrestling match while forming it. But I glued it onto the bench base anyway, and made peace with the imperfections and moved on. And with that, it was time to tackle the backrest, which I'm not going to lie, took me a while to figure out. But I eventually landed on an approach I was happy with. I made the backrest in 5 separate sections, each one the same length as the wall it would sit against. For the 3 longest sections, I built shallow little cardboard boxes, but instead of cardboard for the fronts, I used EVA foam to give them a softer look. Each box also gets stuffed with a little cotton fill for that padded effect. To get a more curved, rounded top on the backrest, I built up 3 layers of EVA foam on the front. Then I wrapped the whole thing in fabric and glued it down as neatly as I could. And then my favorite detail, to really sell the upholstered bench look. I took some tiny seed beads and threaded them through the front of the fabric, and pulled the thread really tight before tying off. That tension creates these little decorative dents in the fabric. You know, like the tufting details you see in a lot of upholstered furniture. It's such a small thing, but I think it makes such a big difference. I went ahead and glued these finished sections onto the base, which left me with just the 2 pieces that would sit against the angled corner walls. These ones I made a little differently. I measured the gaps left between the already glued sections and built small angled cardboard frames to fit right into those spaces. For the curved top, I also switched up my method here, partly out of necessity. I actually ran out of EVA foam and didn't really feel like making a store run, so I improvised. I created a small fabric tube, stuffed it with a little cotton fill, and glued it along the top of the frame. From there, I wrapped the frame in fabric, folding and gluing everything as neatly as I could. Then I tucked a small handful of cotton fill into the back and glued a piece of cardboard over it, sandwiching the fill between the fabric front and the cardboard back. Just like the other sections, I threaded a little bead through the front to create that same decorative dent. All that was left was gluing both pieces into place. And just like that, the bench was done. Time to move on to the walls. I started by cutting out a U-shaped piece of cardboard to fit around the bench. I made it about a 1/2 inch wide, since that's how thick the walls were going to be. Once I was happy with how it sat around the bench, I cut out all the individual wall panels, making sure to cut out the window openings as well. With all my pieces ready, it was time to start assembling. I worked from the inside out, attaching the interior wall panels first. And just like I did with the bench base, I rolled up cardboard to tuck between the inner and outer walls for extra strength and stability. While I was doing that, I also added cardboard strips connecting the inner and outer walls together, which doubled as the windowsills. And before I knew it, the whole nook was framed out. Now it's time to make these walls actually look like walls. If you've seen my Barbie reading Nook video, you already know my go-to trick for this. A simple mixture of plaster, Mod Podge, and water. Brush it right onto the cardboard and it covers up that cardboard look completely and leaves you with a drywall-like texture. Once it dried, I did sand it down a little to smooth everything out. Then I painted the whole thing this soft sky blue color. Once that was dry, I finished it off with some simple white molding along the top edge. At this point, I was getting genuinely excited because it was really starting to look like something. Next up, curtains. I found this adorable striped fabric that I thought matched with the colors of the mini dishes I made in my last video. I really wanted these curtains to look as polished as possible, so I took my time and ironed a proper hem onto every single panel. Each window gets 2 curtain panels, even the little angled ones, which meant I had 10 little panels to sew in total. To really sell the curtain look, I added tiny gold rings along the top of each panel for the curtain rod to thread through. For the rods themselves, I painted wood kebab skewers gold to match the base of the dining table. And to hang them, I used the same gold jewelry eye pins as the curtain rings. I punched a small hole on either side of each window opening, fitted the eye pins inside the holes, and hung the rod through them. Simple, but it looks so intentional. Then I hung the curtains up, making sure the rods could support the weight. Which they did. After that, I felt like it was time to glue the bench into place against the inner walls. Now for making the actual windows themselves. For the window panes, I used sheets of clear plastic and applied white vinyl stickers in a window grid pattern on top. Then I cut each piece down to fit its window opening. I also cut out window frames from cardboard off camera, painted them white, and attached them to the panes. To install the windows onto the walls, I glued them onto the outer walls with the frames facing outward. So from the inside of the Nook, all you see is the clean grid of the window pane, while the frame dresses up the outside. Oh, you might have also noticed some white molding along the top and the sides of the bench that weren't there before. I snuck that in off camera too. It just felt like the right finishing touch to give the bench that proper, built-in look, like it really belongs in this space. And with that, all that was left to do was style everything up for the final reveal. I have to say, I think this little breakfast nook turned out absolutely adorable, especially knowing that like 90% of it is cardboard. It's honestly amazing what some glue, plaster, and paint can do. So if you ever felt like you couldn't make something because you didn't have the budget for it, just know the supplies you need might already be sitting in your recycling bin. Let me know in the comments what you think of this project, and I'd love to hear what you think I should make next. I already have a few videos I'm working on, but I love hearing what you guys want. And if you're new here, welcome! If you love miniatures, Barbie projects, paper crafts, and all kinds of creative DIYs, you are definitely in the right place. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss whatever I come up with next. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next crafty adventure. Bye!